All right, today we are going to be talking about South Carolina, Greensville, specifically living in the Taylors area, the surrounding area just around Greensville in South Carolina. And our guest today is Cricket Allen. Cricket, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, tell us a little about your background, how long you've been living in the South Carolina area or the surrounding area near Greensville and Taylor.
Okay. So back when I was in sixth grade, my parents moved down to North Carolina, right over the border. I'm really close to the North Carolina, South Carolina border. So I've been in this area for most of my life. I went to college in North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Have been a real estate agent for just 6 years, but I was an investor for 30. And so I've been in the real estate market for about 30 years, and have been specifically here in Taylors and Greenville about 11 years, and moved here from Greenville, Tennessee. There's a lot of Greenvilles in the United States. So
Awesome. Okay, cool. So, sorry, how long? So you've been there since basically after junior high, pretty much.
yeah, but I would say since I moved away and I traveled around a lot, I call this home, but as a lot of young adults do, they travel and explore different places, but got married to somebody about 11 years ago and came back home. So
Cool. Okay, awesome. So we have some places we can compare it to in your journey.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm curious about what it's like to live in this area. So let's dive into this. Let's I'm curious about kind of going off of, you living in other places and comparing it. How would you compare it to living in other places?
I lived in Arizona for a little while near the border, Yuma. Very, very hot, dry. It was beautiful in a different way. I mean, here it's very green and lush all the time. There it's very subtle grays and greens and browns. But it would get like 120 degrees, and people would say, well, it's a dry heat. And I said, so is an oven, And so I lived there in the springtime, but boy, when it got summer, I was like, I'm out of here. I stayed there for about 6 months. Then I've lived in Greenville, Tennessee, which I liked very much. It's near the mountains. I've lived in Chapel Hill, which was a great college town, and a very walkable, a lot of arts, a lot of things that you can do. I like doing hiking. I like also doing, it's called the contra dancing, which is similar to square dancing, and there's a lot of that in this area. I've lived up in Asheville. Again, there's mountains there, but it's gotten very expensive up in the Asheville area. So Greenville allows me to be close to things that I enjoy doing, and it's a little bit more affordable. The one thing here is it is hot and humid in the July and August, but because of that, we grow great peaches. And so, when life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade. And in my case, we've got great peaches. And so I enjoy that throughout the summer. And because most of the time, even when it's hot outside, you go inside and you get air conditioning to cool off. So it's not that big of a deal. And it's only for a couple months of the year. And other than that, it's a very temperate climate that I'm able to be out and about all year long. So it doesn't rain a whole lot. Like I know I lived for a little while in Seattle, and it was just overcast and rainy most of the year. It was pretty, but it was overcast and rainy most of the year. So I was like, I don't like that much rain. So.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. This is awesome. You have a lot of different places in the country that you've lived in, like different terrains, different topographies, different cultures. So, you mentioned peaches. I didn't realize. I know we all know Georgia. They have lots of peaches.
Right.
And I'm here in Southern California, and I just looked it up, and recently we've been wondering why our peach tree is not growing, and we looked up on the map, and it shows the areas of where peach trees don't like to grow, and it showed Southern California, and I was like, oh.
It's probably too dry. I mean, they really like it hot and humid, and I didn't realize it until I moved down here. There's I don't know, 10 different varieties every week. There's a new variety that comes in, and um, and I've just kind of learned, that early in the year they don't come off of the pit really easily, but I like the yellow peaches better than the white peaches, and so we've kind of figured out what strains we really like. But anyway, it's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Okay, so let's go into like the culture of what it's like to live in Greenville, and in the Taylor area. Yeah, what is it like in I guess comparing it to the other places maybe that you've lived?
Sure. So Greenville is a melting pot of. We are a magnet for people moving from other parts of the country. We have a net of 65 people a day moving here to the area. So we might have 100 people move here a day and 35 people leave. So we're net positive 65 people every single day. And we're coming from all over the country, especially now that we have a lot of people with remote learning.
Yep.
Remote working, is that we're getting people from California, Washington, Oregon, because it's less expensive. It's a conservative state, but it's not progressive. I've had some people who think that we're all hicks in overalls. We're not, that it is more conservative than some of the craziness that I've seen in other parts of the country. We don't have legalized marijuana. We don't have some of the issues that I'm seeing in other parts of the country. But because it's a melting pot, it's kind of a cosmopolitan feel. We have Broadway shows, we have an ice rink, we have a professional hockey team, a professional baseball team. So there's lots of outdoor activities. There's biking trails that go through the city and go up north to the Travelers Rest area. So it allows people that want to be out and about, not just sitting around watching TV. I mean, there's a lot of activities. There's a river that runs right through Greenville. And so on a hot summer day, you can go and hang out at the park next to the river. And it's just a really cool place to really be. So awesome. It's not so big that it's like a city feel. It's not like New York City or Atlanta. It's a walkable downtown. It's not like we don't have subways or trains or anything like that. It's just it's a good medium-sized city.
Excellent. Yeah, and you mentioned like marijuana not being legalized, which I think affects the culture of whatever state that you're living in.
Absolutely.
One way or another. They're kind of, without going too much into politics, but it does have an impact on you deciding if you want to live somewhere. I think more and more today, and like, a lot of I know Californians who they're like, it's the state has just gone too far left and I'm leaving. And yeah, and everyone has a different breaking point, I think, or where they're called to live. So it's just a matter of where what's right for you in this time and stage of your life. So
and part of what you just said is true, is because some states have gone so far. The tax burdens on some of the programs are really prohibitive for people living their life, or the rolling blackouts, or the water conservation. Is that we're not out here wasting our resources, but we also don't have someone who's trying to control us. They don't tax the fire out of us. We get a lot of people coming from other parts of the country that they're like, that's all you have to pay for taxes. I mean, I live in a really nice home and our taxes are $2,500 a year. And I know some people, they're paying 10 to 15 times that.
Yeah. Yep. So that's referring to property taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yep.
Awesome.
And our sales tax, I think, are 6%. I'm not really good with, I'm pretty sure our sales tax are 6%. It's not bad.
Got it. So now kind of, we're talking about finances. Let's go into cost of living. So in terms of cost of living in the Greenville and Taylor area, let's could you compare and contrast that and just kind of dive into that for someone thinking about moving to the area?
Sure. Well, like just recently we got back from we went to Alaska, Washington, and Oregon, and gas was so much higher than what we're used to paying. Food was so much higher. I mean, we were spending on our vacation $40 for breakfast. At here, we could pay $20 and have a nice meal, um, unless you're going to something fancy. So it's a lot more affordable. Gas is more affordable. I think it's like $3.30 right now, $3.50. So it's not bad, and so the cost of living is lower here as well compared to other parts of the country. I'm sure in Kansas or some of the Midwest states we might be more expensive, but I think on the whole it's a fairly reasonable place to live financially. And wages are good. We have an Amazon distribution center. We have a BMW manufacturing. We have some really high tech engineering firms here. It's called Fluor. Michelin has the headquarters here. So because we're a tax-friendly state, we get a lot of good manufacturing jobs that come here. So it's fairly easy to find a good paying job.
That's good. That's always a good thing. I'm curious with like cost of living in terms of housing. Just like a typical maybe house or a condo, like what does that look like?
Sure. So I am a real estate agent, and right now, a first time, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house, it runs you like 280,000 on an individual lot. So not a condo. A condo would be probably, you could get one for 225, maybe even a little bit less if you're willing to be in a condo situation. So, but a lot of people do choose to be in single family homes here because it is affordable. So,
I'm curious.
What about you? How much is it for a 30-bed bathhouse there?
It depends where you live. If you want to live out in the desert, you're looking probably in the fours. And then if you want to live, not super 2 hours away from I guess from the coast, man, I would say nothing. You can't really get anything under 6, and that's like a fixer upper. Like
wow.
That's probably like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath kind of thing. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. I would be like surprised, like, oh my gosh, like there's something in that range.
Yeah, no. Well, and when I'm saying that the 280, that's a brand new. Right, that's a brand new home. Now, if you want to be downtown Greenville, that same house might be $425 or $450. But if you're willing to, like when you're making that comparison, if you're willing to go half an hour away from the middle of Greenville, you're talking $250, $220 for a move-in ready, not a fixer. And I'm an investor. Fixers for me are 100,000 or less.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Do people ever come to the area like on it built like brand new builds, like kind of have like things customized to their liking?
Yeah.
Or
we have more, we call them tract homes, where most of the builders, they make their decisions with interior designers, and they have maybe 4 packages. Do you want dark cabinets or white cabinets or gray cabinets kind of thing. That's where most of the builders, the high-end builders that do custom homes, they're a little bit more expensive. However, they will totally customize to your plans. You can get it totally customized as well. But they're less frequent than, they're because of the cost, they're a little bit more.
Okay. So it's a little bit more expensive to build brand new
custom.
Yeah.
It's like a factory home versus a house that's, you buy a lot and you go to an architect and find a plan that you like and you build it and have all the decisions that you have to make. It's overwhelming if you've never built a house from scratch. It's pretty overwhelming how many decisions you have to make when you do a custom home. And so what these tract home builders, they've come up with a nice floor plan that it's open floor plan with, they use nice furnishings, nice surfaces, luxury vinyl plank that's waterproof, good quality cabinets, granite or quartz, but you only have to make one of 3 choices or one of 4 choices. It's a little bit less anxiety provoking for most people, because buildings from scratch not only is it more expensive, there's 1,000 decisions that you have to make when you're building from scratch.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Things I'm sure you would never even think about for
Yeah.
your house, because you're like, why would I think about that?
Like, where do the light switches, do you want the light switches on this side of the door, that side of the door? Do you want can lighting all the way around or centralized lighting? Do you want the windows? There's so many decisions. What kind of trim do you want? It's overwhelming. So
Got it. So what is like a more of like a prefab type of house look like on a lot with a developer out there?
well, that's what I was saying about we don't call them prefab, we call them a tract home, like Ryan Homes or
Got it.
yeah, is that that's where I was saying 270 to 300,000 for a 3-2.
Got it. Excellent. Makes sense. And then you talked a little about the economy. So I'm curious, during maybe these last 2-3 years, have you noticed more companies moving into the area, into the state?
I wouldn't say that I've seen companies moving in or moving out. The market has been so insane this past year that I've just been running full tilt trying to keep up with my job. And so, I mean, I've seen a lot of people moving here, but I haven't necessarily seen companies relocate here. But they may be, but I couldn't tell you whether or not they are or not. I think I sold 46 houses last year, and that's a busy, I'm working way too many hours, and so I don't watch the news or anything like that, so I can't really talk about it. So.
That's all right. Yeah, you're good. You're good. I was just curious. But as you mentioned, people are working remotely, so in one way or another, companies are kind of moving in through their workers. But let's shift gears a little bit and go into the schools. I'm wondering. I work at a school, so I think it's just super, and I just love education and learning. So I'm curious about the schools in the area. How are they?
Sure. So in terms of college, a lot of people have heard of Clemson University and the University of South Carolina. Those are two very big universities. We've also got Furman. It's a little bit smaller university in North Greenville, right here in the area. And they're all really good quality. They're not, I guess the University of South Carolina is a public school, but it's a good quality public school. The other three that I mentioned are private schools, and they're good quality. Clemson has amazing football and other sports as well. But it's nice having 4 universities here in the area, because that attracts people who are going to be working there. It also brings in some of the opportunities, like there's a Clemson University has an agricultural extension that deals with helps farmers look at crops that might be struggling, or for instance, that there's just more resources for people to get information from learned people. In terms of the high schools and the junior highs, I had absolutely no trouble getting into college at Chapel Hill, and it's a very competitive school. And yes, it's in the North Carolina, but we have good quality public schools here. We don't have, I don't want to sound political, but we don't have problems with gangs or that kind of school of violence. I'm not saying that there's not any bad apples. I'm sure there are bad apples, but on the whole, kids go to school to go to school. They don't go to school to hook up with their friends and get into mischief. And so, the kids are pretty focused on learning. And we also have a large, growing, I should say, not large, but a growing homeschool environment, because I've got some friends who it's called a co-op, where their kids go to school, some as a group and some they stay at home and learn online and some of these different modules with their parents, and they get a really good quality education doing this co-op systems. My niece and nephew down in Atlanta, they did homeschool their entire time, and I think they learned probably more than I did, just because if they were curious about something like you, they would have the time to be able to focus on what they were curious about learning about.
Hmm.
rather than a regular curriculum where it was, everybody's got to be on the same pace. And if somebody's an advanced learner, they might be held back.
Hmm.
And if somebody's a struggling student, they may not get the same attention. So I think that on the whole, there's a lot of people who are starting to look at alternative schools or co-op environments.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think more options is better. Always with, especially in education. I heard someone recently say like, they're talking about how like, we don't have monopolies on anything, but with public schools we kind of do. So the public schools maybe, which I'm a believer in school choice and having a lot of options. So, but
Which we do have school choice. Even if you're zoned to be in a certain area, there is an opportunity to try to get into another school system. It's not given that you're going to get into the different school system, but you can apply to be.
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's important. Um, you mentioned Atlanta in Georgia, and so just like on the map, you guys are, that's a major international airport. But when you travel, how domestically or internationally, living in the area, how does that look for you, or what about do you go?
Yeah, we travel a lot, and so depends on the flight whether or not we leave from Greenville Spartanburg, because it is an international, or if we start out in Atlanta and so drive 2.5 hours there. But sometimes you'll start out in Greenville, do a short hop to Atlanta, and then travel. But yeah, you can get anywhere in the world from Greenville. It's not being close to an international airport like GSP. It's been a good thing. So.
How is GSP as an airport?
It's great. It's a smaller airport, so you don't have lots and lots of lines, and you don't have to walk a mile to get to your next gate. We just recently, like I said, we're in Seattle and also O'Hare in Chicago, and we had to just walk. We had to get on a train to go between the gates, where you don't have that with GSP. It's a smaller airport.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it was for people who travel frequently. That's always a thing where it's like, how would that be? Because if you're going to different parts of the world or different parts of the country frequently, it has an impact on your life in terms of where you live and stuff. So, you mentioned a little bit about earlier, like things to do. Like you mentioned, like hiking. You mentioned the river. I'm curious for things that are like more specific to your area that are localized, that it's like kind of like embodies maybe the Greenville area, the Taylor area, or a little bit more. Like what are some things that are just more localized?
Just Spartanburg, just in the Taylor's area and Greenville area. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm like, well, that's in other parts of the country too. Because I can't.
That's right.
I'm trying to. Yeah,
I'm more curious. Like, I've talked to someone in another area. They're like, oh, we have like a certain parade or like a certain like a boat. Like in Florida, the boat culture is a big thing. So they have like in the summertime only. They have like a boat thing. All the boat owners get together.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything like that. I mean, we do have a number of lakes. My husband and I live on a lake, and then there's 2 other large lakes that people can go out to. But I wouldn't say that's any different than any other part of the country that has a lake, but there is definitely a lake culture. So
talk about that lake culture. Is it common for people to vacation on the lake or just visit friends or on the lake?
Well, the lake that we live on. My husband used to call the Redneck Lake when he grew up, because he grew up here. He's been in Greenville all his life, because it was a mill lake. There was it's a dammed river, and so it's 500 acres, and they split it up into lots of little, very tiny lots, so that people could have. They call it a camp, where people would go fishing, and it would just be a weekend time getaway. It's kind of morphed into more full-time living. We did not want to have 2 houses to maintain, and live in one house and go to the lake on the weekends and then go back to the city for, work. So we just we chose to live 30 minutes away from downtown Greenville so that we could live full time on the lake. I mean, we wake up in the morning and go, we live here. Yeah. We're not on vacation. We live here. So it's nice that you can, and there's, like I said, there's 3 lakes that you can do that. Actually 4 lakes that you can do that you can get to downtown Greenville within a 30-minute period. And so it is nice to be able to have your home, that your backyard is beautiful all year long. So.
Yeah. And does the lake ever freeze over or in the area? No? Yeah, you're good. Okay. Yeah, because you're in the south.
Yeah, we're pretty temperate. The coldest we ever get is, in the middle of winter, it might get down to 12 degrees at the coldest, but most of the time our winters are like 40 degrees. It's not bad.
Excellent. Yeah, I heard podcasts recently talking about like living by a body of water helps your like level of happiness. And I was like, I believe that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
That's cool. And even just a lot of like places that are typically beautiful, people live by the water. So I'm a fan of the water.
Well, and comparing being on a lake around here adds about $100,000 to a house. And so the same house, if we were not on the lake, would be about 100,000 less. But other parts of the country, it's gotten so inflated that most people don't have the opportunity unless they are wealthy, to live on the lake. It's still affordable enough for somebody to be able to buy a house and actually live on a lake here, and still be a working kind of person, not necessarily somebody who's a movie star or athlete or whatever. Is that normal Joe people can live on a lake here.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. That's like that's the American dream right there for me. Yeah. It is alive and well in Greenville area, and the Taylor. So let's like I'm like so interested in lakes. Is it like you said there's 4 kind of main lakes around the area?
Yeah, there's we're on actually 5. So there's Lake Lyman is where I live, Lake Jocassee, Lake Keowee, Lake Hartwell, and Lake Bowen. And so and most of these, like I said, have been dammed up because in the past there were paper mills, and so they had to have a source of energy, and so they dammed them up. And then even after the mill no longer is working, they realized instead of breaking down the dam, they just kept it. So
hey, it's kind of nice. How is like in terms of like fish or fishing or can you say swimmability? I was in Hemet, and we got in the lake, but we weren't supposed to because they were treating the water. So if I die next week, I don't know. It's like,
no,
we're like, what?
Yeah, it's clean water. Because it's because it's dammed up river. It's not like, it's obviously not salt water, but it's not clear because it is constantly getting fed by rivers and runoff and things like that. So if we've had a lot of rain, it brings silt in. So it's kind of a brownish color, but it's clean water. I mean, I don't like to, and their water supplies, now that I think about it, the county takes that water and treats it and uses it for the water supply that I drink. So it's not bad water, and they do stock it. So there's trout and catfish and other things that people every day I see people fishing off of, going past our house. So
awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's so if you're out there and you're looking for a lake house, you might want to look into
Call Cricket.
Yes, look into the area. That sounds amazing. Yeah, because I know in Michigan, it's big lake culture, but prices are obviously a lot higher in the area and stuff. So which we have not talked about Michigan. I'm like looking forward to one day talking about that. So curious. I hear it's beautiful. So I guess to sum up maybe the culture of the area, like how would you describe it to somebody if they're just kind of like landing in the area and visiting?
Um, a lot of outdoor activities, friendly people, um,
Mm,
safe, um, and affordable. An affordable place to raise a family.
mm.
It's a family-friendly state.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. I'm trying to think anything else about the area that I'm wondering about. Okay. I like asking this question. What don't you like about the area?
The humidity, but it makes us grow good peaches.
Yeah.
But it is, like on a day like this, it just you walk outside and you're like, oh, I got to get to air conditioning. But I mean, most of the time you hop into your car and you turn on your air conditioning. But that's really probably the only thing.
Hmm. Okay.
I love mountains, and so I can get to the mountains within a half an hour. If I want to go to the beach, it's 2.5 hours. If I want to get to an airport, it's half an hour. So there's not a whole lot of things that I don't like. I love whenever we travel, we always consider will we want to live there. It's like, well, we could always come visit that place, but this is home.
Hmm.
That it's a good place to be from. So we don't
Yes.
have extremes. So I think the only thing I don't like is, like I said, the humidity. But if we didn't have the humidity, we wouldn't have the peaches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's the pros and cons in life. I, I was in the desert yesterday in the mountains, and then I went to the beach in California. First time I've ever done that, but in all in one day, But I was thinking, I was sitting on the sand, and I was like, I bet you there's other states you can do that. You can be in the mountains and go to the beach, kind of thing. So you kind of just described that right now. You're about 2.5 hours away from the beach.
yeah, we choose not to live closer because we can get hurricanes here, and um, I can always go drive down there and stay overnight and come back home the next day, or spend a weekend or whatever. It's not so far that we have to fly or anything like that to get to the beach. But I wouldn't want to live down on the coast, just because number one, the hurricanes, but also the cost of property is prohibitive. It, I just don't want to spend that much money for a house. So
Mhm.
and have it the the salt water does damage to any kind of metal, gets rusted fast, and there's a lot more home maintenance for a house that's right on the water. So I like to go visit instead of having that as home.
Got it. Excellent. Yeah, and it's a doable day. I'm sure some people do the day trip. Leave it whatever 6 in the morning, come back after sunset.
And wait a minute, I said 2.5 hours. I think it's actually 4.5 hours, but so it's still.
Oh, okay, 4.5 hours. So that's
I do, yeah. I think it's more like 4.5 hours. So it's 2.5 down to Atlanta, but I'm really bad with my geography. It's still drivable in the morning.
God. I was like, wait, what? Okay. Yeah.
I can go ask my husband.
On the
but
map. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, no, I think it's. I'm looking at the map right now. It's probably more 4. Interesting. And there's like some like really really big bodies of water not too far from you guys. This one over here, like all of this, you guys are like,
yeah, those are the lakes where I was talking about. So the one down on the bottom, that's called Lake Hartwell. And then the middle one is Lake Kiowee, and the top one is Lake Coxaway.
oh, okay. So just all
So-
got it.
Yeah, and those are big lakes. So if you see where Greer is over on the map, the top right, if you go, yeah. So now scroll to the move over, move over towards Taylor's. Yeah, that way. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. And so there's 3 little lakes. That lake that's near Duncan is the one I'm on, and that's 500 acres.
Hmm.
So the one that's straight up from the end of Duncan, that's a 500-acre lake.
Got it. Yeah, there's no shortage of lakes, I feel like, in
Yeah.
the area.
Because like I said, whenever there were mills, they would they'd use that. And so there's a great big one up at the very top near Campobello. That's one that you can jet ski on. And so
awesome. Well, cool.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'm so kind of just wrapping things up. Is there anything like maybe a question I didn't ask about the area, or something that people might want to know before visiting or moving to the area?
Well, this is going to sound bad, but if you're moving from another part of the country because you're tired of the politics, the left-leaning politics, when you come here, just remember that you're leaving another state because of some of those policies. And if you come and you bring those policies with you, then it's going to end up becoming what you are leaving from. And so there is always the concern that if somebody's moving here from other parts of the country, that it's going to start shifting our culture to where we're not, this you came here for a reason, to get away from some of the craziness that's out there. And we don't want to end up just becoming, another place that you're like, oh, now it's like that again. That some of our policies are the way they are, and to maintain the way of life that we have, because, we're a fairly conservative state. And I hope that we maintain that. So if somebody's thinking about coming, just remember that we don't want to end up having some of the same social issue problems. Like, for instance, when I was up in Washington State, in Bellingham in particular, their policies are so they're getting more and more encampments, just huge encampments of homeless people. And when we were in Anchorage, I stepped over, there was a needle on the ground, an IV needle that somebody had just left on the ground, and there was poop. I saw somebody pooping in a park. It's like, we don't do that kind of stuff around here. And we hope that we maintain this. We still help people who are needing to get back on their feet. We have great programs for, great organizations that help people, but we want to make sure that we help people who are trying to help themselves as well. We're not going to just allow people to just sit back and just be on the dole and just keep on. We want people to try to help themselves get up from, get off of the ground and get back into society. So anyway.
Yeah, well said. When you said that, I realized that I'm just desensitized to that, because I'm like, yeah, that's normal. Like, that's just because of like the culture, that the West Coast kind of culture where we're at, where it's like, I've seen, like, I guess desensitized is just kind of the way, but that should not be normal. And there's homelessness in California is a whole another topic and discussion in itself, and a lot of different opinions, and I've been down there in the streets feeding people and stuff, so I've been on the field, and I've wondered, like, I wonder if any politicians have been down here feeding the homeless. I'm like, I don't think so. And if there are, let me know in the comments, because when I was in there, I was like, otherwise it shifts your perspective on the issue, and you start to think about things differently. And I totally agree with.
Well, there's a saying, instead of giving a man a fish, teach him to fish.
Fish, yes.
And this, unfortunately, if you make it too easy, if you don't make someone work for, then they don't have that pride of ownership. We want to make sure that people get back on their feet, and we have ways to help people, but we also want people to help themselves, and to plug in to the jobs that are available, and to the services that are available, not just receive. So
yeah, understandable. Cool. Well, this has been such a great chat. I'm like, now I want to visit the area.
Come on,
like,
give me a call.
The lakes, and it sounds like a beautiful state, and it sounds like the American dream is alive and well. So it makes me happy in my heart.
Thank you.